Is it the end for Elliott? That will be the topic of today's video because Harvey Elliott has been speaking and he's basically admitted that his Liverpool days are incredibly numbered. He said that he doesn't want to be wasting years of his career. He's still very young, but I think with Florian Wirtz coming in, it's fair to say that his days at Liverpool are sadly coming towards an end. A great player is Harvey Elliott. I've spoke to him a few times in the mix zone, spoke to him in Philadelphia last summer, and he talked about how buzzing he was for this season. Didn't quite work out for him with an injury, which I thought set him back somewhat in terms of impressing Arne Slot and the other coaches. He scored that goal in Paris, spoke to him after that game, and he said, this is my club, I want to fight for my place. But when all is said and done, it does feel like it's got to be the right time for Elliott to move on. He's going to the under-21s Euros with England this summer. And one of my colleagues, Nathan Salt, spoke to him at St George's Park the other day. Those quotes have come out about now. Well, I'm recording at 1 p.m, but the video's not coming out till 10:30 p.m. when they are embargoed till. So we're going to welcome on our first guest to the channel, Nathan, who was in the room at St George's Park with Elliott, to just talk through what it means for him. Is he definitely going to be leaving? How does he feel? Is he gutted? I mean, the answer is pretty obvious. He loves Liverpool. He loves the club. He doesn't want to leave. But I think he realises that it is probably the right time to do so. So we're going to run into a little video now with Nathan, where he talks about his experiences interviewing Harvey Elliott. And he also had a chat with Tyler Morton, who's another Liverpool player who's going to be on the move this summer. And if you keep watching to the end, he has an interesting name of a player to watch at the under-21s Euros this summer, one that I watched on Germany duty the other day. So let's go to that now. So as I said, we're now joined by an expert, or I would call him an expert anyway, a good friend of mine as well, colleague Nathan Salt, who covers the England under-21s. He's going to be at the tournament this summer, and I'm sure he's looking forward to that. But we're just going to pick his brains because he was in the room with Harvey Elliott. A very busy day, it sounded, at St George's Park. Was that at St George's Park?
Indeed, very busy.
So what did Harvey have to say for himself then, Nathan?
I think the most interesting thing Harvey said, and it wasn't said with any, I guess, anger or disappointment. It was like very considered what he said, and what he said was, to jump to the point, was that he can't waste any more years of his career. So he has to him and his team. He kept saying him and his team, him and his camp have to really consider whether he needs to leave Liverpool, which he doesn't want to do. He said that I don't want to leave Liverpool, but am I going to get the game time moving forward? And he said that this past season was great in that won the league and to be a part of it, but was weird and difficult at the same time. And the way he casually spoke about it and with such consideration made me think that he's thought about it a lot. And leaving Liverpool, I left the room after speaking to Harvey. He was great talker, and he always is. He always gives up his time, and he's brilliant. I just got the impression that he's at peace with the fact that he might need to leave Liverpool, as difficult as that would be now when you've just won a league title. And he brought up that PSG game, the first leg against PSG, where he kept talking about how he was reliving that moment because he hadn't had loads after that, and Tyler Morton, you might get onto later, brought up Harvey and like the role he's played in helping him out of the team, been able to grow really close, and they're both in the England under-21 team. But I think when I walked out the room, I got the impression that Harvey wants to be a senior England international and wants to be a regular in the Premier League. And I don't know if he believes in his heart of hearts he can achieve that at Liverpool.
Yeah, it's a weird one, really, because I've spoke to Harvey Elliott a few times this season, and he's such a nice lad. I mean, he talks with a maturity that's beyond his years. I think almost maybe he's a bit nervous, so he overspeaks sometimes, which is great for us as journalists. But I do feel sorry for him because, there's a very, very good player in there, and he's been troubled with injuries really this season. I think that's set him back a bit. But when he spoke to us after that PSG game in the Parc des Princes, he said, like, this is my club, I want to fight for my chance here. But now, 2-3 months on, it feels like he's maybe come to a realisation, being realistic, that it might be best for him to leave. So How did he sound? Did in terms of his mood? I know you're not a body language expert or a mind reader, but did he sound gutted, or did he sound more, I'm up for a challenge of moving elsewhere and fighting for my career?
He was in good spirits. Him and Jarrell Kwanzaa were messing around a lot. They were obviously the players were having to get their photos taken for the tournament, as is normal for any big competition. And Jarrell and Harvey were messing around like mates would do, and the FA staff were trying to cajole them to get all the interviews and everything done. I wouldn't say he sounded like devastated, or he actually used a phrase. I think one of his exact quotes was, I think we need to be mature about the situation. Like he's not. Arne Slot doesn't owe him minutes, and Liverpool don't owe him appearances. Right? He's well aware of that. He just says he just wants more out of it. He knows that he can't keep going through years whereby he's on the periphery all the time because.
Yeah.
I was chatting to people at the FA and just in and around other journalists there that day, and we were talking about, Lee Carsley had a quote where he said, some of these guys in the team are like kids that need to move out the house now. Like they've reached the point they need to move on, referring to the senior team. And you look at Harvey's talent, that's not in question, I don't think, really. He'll have a great career wherever he plays. But you look at that senior team, and you're not going to put Harvey ahead of those guys based on the production we've seen, really. You don't look at this camp. As I'm speaking to you now, England are playing now. All the guys that are playing in that senior team have got a lot more minutes than Harvey. And I think it's kind of, he's just at a point where if you can guide England to 21's glory this summer, and he wasn't named captain, he was in the mix to be named the captain. James McAtee ended up getting the nod. But he was in the mix, clearly trusted by Lee Carsley and Ashley Cole and the staff. But he just wants so much more than maybe the 21s being his ceiling, and then you kind of this English player that is just riding a bench at a top football club that he supports and he wants to be at. But I think, I just think he's so mature that he's got to a point where he's gone, I don't want to leave, but I might have to if that's the only option for me.
Well, as you said a minute ago, England are playing as we record, but I can assure you that talking to you, Nathan, is a lot more entertaining than watching Andorra be England. I watched a bit of the first half, and it was a bore fest. But as we said, you are the under-21s expert, and another player you've been speaking to is obviously Tyler Morton, Liverpool player for now at least. He could have got a move last summer. Liverpool sort of maybe priced out a couple of clubs in terms of a move. And you spoke to him this week about how he's found this season. What did tell us about it? What did he have to say?
I think he gave off the impression to me that he was a lot more gutted with how things had gone, because I think he explained that he wanted to leave on loan, and Slot or whoever, I mean, you'd assume Slot, said to him, no, we need to keep you around, keep you part of the group. I think initially maybe that's a positive. You think he might be part of it, and then, doesn't play a minute, I don't think, in the Premier League, en route to a Premier League title. There's a picture with him on the pitch with Jarrell Kwanzaa, Harvey Elliott, Connor Bradley. And, I mean, he's got his shirt on, Tyler Morton, but he's in his tracksuit bottoms. He's not been part of it. He doesn't feel part of it. And I think for him, his exact phrasing was, it's been the toughest season mentally for me, because... He spoke a lot about development and how he's really learned a lot being away from the game. And Johnny Heitinger's he praised a lot, and Aaron Briggs, I think he also gave a lot of credit to the kind of just like guiding him through. And it's not a wasted season. He did say that it's been a good season. He said it could have gone worse for him than it was. Got to play at Anfield, got to look up to his dad's seat and everything. It could have gone worse, but he said it could have gone a lot better. And you really got the impression that, yes, he was very complimentary of Slot. He said he was the best manager he's ever worked with in terms of tactics. And he said he's just so on it, so intense. Whereas Jurgen Klopp was more freeing, just said, like, go out, play as you best play. Yeah. Whereas Slot is just like on it, he was saying. So I found that really interesting. But that was nothing that no other players told you over the course of the season. You're going to get glowing reports of the manager. He struck me in a similar way, a bit young, obviously a bit younger than, and not much younger. I don't think he's 22, right? So, but he gave off the impression he was a bit younger than Harvey. I think that kind of tallies to what you were saying about Harvey being mature beyond his years. But But Morton, I definitely got the impression that he needs to leave, and I think he will leave. I think he's putting himself in a shop window this summer.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the talking points among the players, actually, I didn't actually get to speak to Jarrell, but one of the talking points among the players just casually was that this is being broadcast live to the nation, this tournament. I think Channel 4 is showing it, right?
Yeah.
So it's a chance to get your name on the radar. Liverpool fans, obviously, who watch this will know who Tyler Morton is. But does the general Premier League fan know who Tyler Morton is and like what a good player he can be? I'm not so sure. So I think this is a massive tournament for Tyler more so than Harvey. I think Harvey's a fabulous footballer wherever he ends up, whether that's in Liverpool's midfield next season or whether that's somewhere else. His talent's not in question. He's really exciting every time I get to watch him play, going back to when he was at Fulham. But Tyler, I think, there's still quite a bit of unknown with him, as good as I think he is. And I've seen him a lot as you know, Lewis, I do a lot of academy football and seeing him dominate Man United in Premier League 2, right? I remember it was Tyler Morton against Toby Collier. Similar points in their career, and Morton ran him ragged that game, I would say, right? And that really left an impression for me. But he's at a real point where he can fall by the wayside if he's not careful. So a move for him, I think, is imperative, more so than Harvey.
Yeah, it's a shame what's happened to Tyler because he had that great loan at Hull, and we've got mutual friends that support Hull, Catherine and Henry, who both gave absolutely glowing reports about Tyler at Hull. And then he had a really good offer on the table last summer by Leverkusen loan. They basically said, and I promise we will do a video where we don't discuss Bayer Leverkusen or their players, but they basically said, listen, we don't want to buy him, but we'll loan him, and then his value could be doubled this time next year. Look at what we've done with different players around, when they won the league, and they promised him over 50% of minutes, but Liverpool wanted to keep him, and it probably has been a wasted season, whether he would admit it or not. So, and just quickly, while we've got you to wrap up, Nathan, obviously you are the under-21s expert. That tournament, as you say, will be broadcast live. We've mentioned the 3 Liverpool players, but what's your big tip for the tournament this summer? What should we be looking out for when we've got nothing better to be doing with our afternoons, watching that tournament at home? What's your big? Who's going to win it, and who's?
Well, I mean, I hope you're going to watch it because it's tournament football, and everyone keeps saying there's no tournament this summer and everything. I keep saying you've got the under 21s playing and they're really exciting, loads of great players, and then you got the women playing, the Lionesses. So loads of football to get stuck into, and then obviously you'll be out on the Liverpool tour. So no rest for the wicked. I would say. You asked me before we came on, did I think Harvey was Liverpool's best player? Was England's best player?
Yeah.
And was really important in qualifying. Really unfortunate. I was out at the France game 5-3, a friendly, preparation game. He missed a penalty out there. That was a real shame. That would have made it 4-4, I think, on the night or something like that. And 4-4, that would have made it. So he was really unlucky there. I think Ethan Nwaneri will probably be England's player of the tournament. One of the most interesting points, and I put this to all the players that came, was that no Liam Delap for the Club World Cup means that England don't really have any option at number 9. Jay Stansfield played for Birmingham, was the only option, and I don't expect him to start based on just my information. So it was, could Harvey play as a false 9? Could Ethan Nwaneri play as a false 9? They all say they could play wherever. And obviously they're going to say that because they want to play the tournament. It's a 23-man squad, only 11 are going to play every game. So Harvey said he could do it. Ethan said he could do it. Who else did I speak to? Amari Hutchinson said he could do it, right? So they're all just are willing to play wherever. James McAtee said he could do it. But I think Harvey will get heavy minutes. I'm just not sure. I just think without a number 9, I just think there'll be a game that England run into where they need that presence, and I just don't know if this kind of fluid, creative, very mobile front 3 are going to get over the line. So we'll see. Look, Lee Carsley said he wants to breed a generation of winners for England. They won it in 2023. They want to win it again. You don't have Jared Branthwaite. You don't have Taylor Howard-Bellis. The 2 big losses at the back there. You don't have Adam Wharton in midfield. Massive loss in midfield. You don't have Jaden Philogene, who's been one of the better wingers, injured. You don't have Liam Delap. So they're missing players. Don't get me wrong. They've still got Joe Bellingham for now. Jarrell Kwanzaa I haven't seen much of in terms of under-21s because he didn't play the last camp in March and he didn't play in the camp before that in November. Again, wealth of experience. Lee particularly was sort of praising him and the amount of games he's played for Liverpool, even if he's not always been in. Harvey's, so experienced at under 21 level. I've got an open mind. I think England might be a sort of semi-finals and home. My tip would be, even though they're missing Ryan Cherky and they're missing Hugo Ekitike, keep an eye on France, because there's some players that you'll have never heard of that are gems and will be worth like 40, 50 million in a year's time. You'd be shocked. So thankfully they're not in England's group. Germany are, and we'll see how they get on. Obviously no Wirtz or anyone, but I will end on this, Lewis. I think there's a guy up front who plays for Wolfsburg who was Voltemada or something like that, who was leading the line on the night you went. On the night you went to watch Wirtz, he was leading the line. I think he's sort of one of Germany's main threats at under 21 level. So we shall see. Fingers crossed, England, and fingers crossed. I think it'd be massive. Poor Harvey, speaking to Harvey, speaking to Tyler.
Yeah.
You're like this as well when you speak to players at Liverpool. You do just really want them to do well.
Yeah.
And I've not dealt with them as much as you have. I'm not seeing Harvey week in, week out in the mix zone. But you do just root for them to do well. So I hope for their sake, because they were talking about wasted seasons and toughest season mentally. And I felt like saying to them, I didn't say that. I felt like saying, season's not over. You still got a major tournament there, and people might scoff and say it's an under-21s tournament. It's not a World Cup. It's not a Euros for seniors. I can tell you, it doesn't mean any less to players that are in the under-21. So fingers crossed, and then both of them have got massive decisions to make.
Well, one thing that is guaranteed is Liverpool scouts will be all over the under-21s Euros this summer. So maybe you should, you viewers at home, you should tune in as well. I will be tuning in with a keen eye. We don't know what's going to happen with Harvey Elliott's future. Maybe he boosts his value at this tournament, or maybe he plays so good that Arne Slot says, hang on a minute, maybe we do need to keep this kid around. He's very young. He obviously wants to succeed at Liverpool. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. But thank you, Nathan, for coming on, providing a very, very nice insight there. So I'll let you get back on with your Saturday evening. This will be going out on Sunday evening, of course. But have a good weekend to all you guys at home as well.